The Geneva Conventions are often considered to be one of humanity's high points in history, with many countries agreeing to avoid dealing unnecessary harm in war. It is for this reason that all infractions of these conventions must be investigated thoroughly. Which brings me to our question for today, which is, did Junpei violate the Geneva Conventions? Now, before we can begin, we all have to be familiar with what the Geneva Conventions were in the first place. The Geneva Conventions were 4 treaties on how war should be conducted. They were created to protect against unnecessary harm occurring as a result of combat. The conventions sought to regulate how people are treated in war and granted rights to soldiers and civilians to guarantee that unjust suffering in war is mitigated. Now, rules are pretty much useless if no one agrees to uphold them, but luckily, most countries in the world have signed at least one of the 4 conventions. Now, it may initially seem hard to believe that a simple schoolboy like Junpei would be capable of committing such an offense like crossing the Geneva Conventions. But the reality is not so simple. The main point of contention is on November the 19th, when Junpei waterboards Ryoji while they're both in the bath together. The Third Geneva Convention of 1929 prohibits the use of waterboarding on prisoners of war. Since Junpei is involved in the fight against the shadows, it is safe to say that the fight against the shadows is in fact a war, and Junpei is a soldier during wartime. Now, with that being said, it would appear that Ryoji can also be considered to be a prisoner of war in this instance as well. Look at it like this. Junpei, a soldier in the war against the shadows, is restraining Ryoji and effectively making him his prisoner. A prisoner of war, which Junpei then proceeds to waterboard. Overall, this is looking not good for Junpei. While the Geneva Conventions do not have specific punishments listed for breaking them, his home country of Japan could in fact choose to prosecute him for breaking them. With Japan signing the Geneva Conventions in 1953, it is safe to say that Junpei would most likely be arrested for his crimes. It would appear as though Junpei did in fact violate the Geneva Conventions and is a war criminal, as is defined by international law.